hit it again. Okay, entering summer video, left side, 100 Federal Street. You can see some new screws in the treads into the clips. You know, one time they were changed out, they're rusting. You can see the bolts under the treads. See, they got spaces there. You can see the bolts and the treads. New bolts, you know, reasonably new. The hex head. You can see the floor, the rail bolts still have original hardware, square hardware down bottom. Missing spacers. Square bolts in the tie-ins there. Original hardware square bolts on the bottom of the rails. Square bolts in the rails here. You do put some hex here, square still here. You have that anchored to the piece of angle length of the building there with square bolts, original hardware. Brace here has square bolts and original hardware. Up there you have square bolts and original hardware. And the same thing with the one there, all square. So that's the hex bolt, so we changed that bolt. You still have square bolts up there and it's set into the concrete the wall. You can see the top of that brace is fairly tight. Somebody's put a couple of new bolts in the rail there. That's a new hex head bolt there. A couple hexes there, but you still have square bolts over the kite here. You still have square bolts down there. Still square bolts in the railings. Still square bolts in the railing there, square bolts. Somebody put a new hex head bolt there. A couple of new hex heads there, but they're still square in the brace there. You can see at one point somebody changed out some of these bolts because they don't have a ton of paint on them. And it's starting to rust. You can see some rust in the spaces there. Original hardware in the rails. Square bolts there. You can see the concrete, the stone in the wall. You can see that they got new bolts in there, new bolts in there. You can see the condition of the stairs, treads. Some of the bolts have been changed in the rails. A lot of them have not been. See the rails here and the condition of them. You can see the braces there, no new bolts in it, no new bolts there. That's fairly tight there, that gusset. Original square bolts in the hardware, so we put a welded clip on there with no bolts. You can still see square bolts on the railings. They have a piece of flat bar on here. Looks like to reinforce the tread. The clip underneath does have bolts in it, so that must be that these spaces inside are gone. Pointing out the condition of the treads. Square bolts on the rails. Gusset here, you can see it doesn't have much rust in it. You can see your brackets here to hold the stringer on. Rails have some new bolts in it, still have some square bolts, especially on the bottom. You can see the rust on the rails. Supports here, square bolts. You can see the wall, the condition of the wall there. The wall over there looks fairly good. And you can see up there the condition of the bolts. Square bolts on the railings, on the bottom, some of them up here have been changed. You can see rust and stuff building up. There's a separation in that gusset if you look at it. It has a couple of new bolts, but it was not cleaned good. Original bolts there, a welded clip on this side, original bolts from the railing. You have a plate there on that side. It's a pillar plate. Bolt missing there, but somebody put hooks on it. You see bolts are rusting. Somebody changed the hex head bolts. They're rusting there. Still some square bolts there. And this gusset here, you can see all the space in it where the rust wasn't cleaned out of it. This gusset here is pretty tight, and it still has original square bolts in it. And the bracket down there still has square bolts in it. Hex bolts, hex rusting, hex square.